Dear ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to welcome you to our first digital outlook regarding the Schuldschein market. My name is Marcel Göldner and I'm here today with my colleague Ulrich Kirchner, who's guiding you through the presentation. Normally, at the end of each year, I do receive a lot of questions about my expectations for the upcoming year. Will there be a spread widening or spread tightening? What are your expectations for the volume or for trends in general? But I would be lying if I would say that my expectations for 2020 have been exactly matched this year. What happened? As we all know, COVID happened and shocked the markets. We still see a lot of news regarding COVID, daily statistics, trends, or expectations about a vaccine. But what we do not see daily in the news is our topic today. So I'm more than happy to hand over to Ulrich to present our outlook.
Yeah, thank you, Marcel. How will the Schuldschein market 2020 be? I think overall 2020 will be quite a solid year. In the first half of the year, we saw issuance volume of 9.5 billion. That is, of course, below the average of the last 5 years. But overall, it's quite decent. We see some 6.3 billion for the second half of this year. And I think this number so far gives a little bit a wrong impression. Why? First of all, we have some deals already closed, but where we just do not know the final volume yet. And on the other hand, we have also some deals that are still in marketing stage. So I think for the entire year, we will end up with 18 to 20 billion of issuance volume in the Schuldschein market. So maybe below previous year's volume, but overall, it is still a very solid year in the market. But no doubt, in the first half of 2020, the situation was quite difficult. We saw a significant slowdown in numbers between March and May. So, Marcel, during this time, how did you, in your experience, saw the development of the market?
Yeah, it was a very hard time. It was a very strange time during March and April this year. You already mentioned the slowdown we see here in March, April, or May. What happened during that time? We saw a lot of investors stepping back from the market because there was a lot of uncertainty in the market and it wasn't clear where we are heading. And the investors struggled with their capacity working from home. Also, some of the investors had a general ban on new investments or haven't been able to assess the uncertainty in the market correctly, maybe. On the other hand, we did receive a lot of questions from issuers. The issuers wanted to tap the market, to secure some headroom, to secure some additional funding, because no one in the market knew where we are heading. And the uncertainty was so huge that all the corporate treasury departments wanted to secure some added funding or some headroom to get through that crisis. It was a very strange time, as I said before, and it was very hard for us to match the issuers and the investors. Finally, and luckily, we at Hellerbar launched very successfully 3 transactions and kept the market open for issuers and investors, both.
Yeah, thank you, Marcel. Where did the market slowdown really come from? What we noticed in 2020, that there have been a lot less new issuers in the market. So a really low number of first-time issuers in the market. They have been a driving force previously for the growth of the Schuldschein market. So what happened in 2020? I think the huge uncertainty in the market led a lot of issuers to use rather their well-known financing tool they have used in the past. So, but I'm rather confident that this situation will change again going forward. Why I'm so confident about that? One indication for me are refinancing rates or funding costs. We have seen a dramatic increase in spreads in March at the beginning of the crisis. Yet since then, the spreads have declined significantly again, almost to pre-crisis level now. So that is at least what we saw on the corporate bond market. Marcel, have we seen a similar development in the Schuldschein market?
Yeah, we do have. The development in the Schuldschein market was similar to the development in the corporate bond market, but with some slight adjustments because the widening of the credit spreads in the corporate Schuldschein market was not as big as in the bond market. But on the other hand, the tightening of the spreads after the peak of the crisis wasn't as steep or as big as in the liquid market. But that's because we are in an illiquid market and the movements are not as fast as in the liquid bond market. And so overall, we saw a widening of the credit spreads of roughly 70 basis points from the level before COVID-19 to peak of COVID-19 or the end of the peak of COVID-19. And then we saw a slight tightening during mid-2020 of roughly 5, 10, maybe 15 basis points, depending on the industry. And now the levels are roughly 50, 60 basis points higher than the levels before the peak of the crisis.
Well, I have to say I'm rather confident that the spread tightening we have so far seen will also continue on the Schuldschein market. Why I'm confident about that? The ECB has been very, very supportive for market sentiment in the first half of the year. They bought an enormous amount of corporate bonds and really brought down the risk premium for corporate bonds. So they really showed a commitment to the market that they want to stabilize the sentiment. So I'm quite positive, quite confident that going forward, whenever it is needed, the ECB will provide additional stimulus. So I think there's a good chance for next year and the year after that the number of Schuldschein issuers will increase again. And with this, that the Schuldschein market will follow again its previous growth path. Marcel, from your point of view, what might happen next year?
Yeah, I think there are some, the market will still be affected by COVID-19 the next year and maybe in 2022. But I totally share your opinion that the long-term growth path is stable and will continue. And what do I expect for 2021? I expect some volumina in between the levels of 2018, 2019 and 2020. The levels will be higher than this year, but still lower than during the years before COVID. So
where does the improvement actually come from? We have seen in 2020 that the number of international issuers on the whole has been quite low. And this also has been a very important growth factor in the market. So in the years before, we have seen a constantly rising participation of international issuers in that market. And for the coming years, I'm rather confident that this can resume. Why? I think the Schuldschein is still quite an interesting source for international companies to diversify their funding sources as well as their investor base. So I think in 2021 and 2022, the internationalization trend we have seen in the past will continue. Thereby, I would like to mention that one of the specific characteristics of the Schuldschein market will remain the same. This has been in the past essentially a refinancing segment for unrated companies. We have seen in 2020 that the number of issuers with an agency rating was far above previous values. Why is that the case? Well, I think in a case or in a time of uncertainty, credit rating eases market access for these issuers, as it is another credential for their creditworthiness and helps them to find more investors. But going forward with the improvement of market sentiment, I think this trend will also withdraw a little bit, and we will see more unrated issuers in the future again, but maybe not to the degree we saw in 2013 and 2014. Why? Because with the internationalization of this market, we have a lot of companies coming to that segment in a mature financing stage. A lot of them have already tapped the bond market, and for that reason possess an agency rating. So that might explain why on the long run we will see a little bit higher level of rated issuers on the market. But for now, I think the Schuldschein market is still the premium refinancing segment in the capital market for unrated issuer. One other trend is getting more important in the Schuldschein market as well, and that is the trend to sustainability. Marcel, what did you see so far on the market with ESG sustainability going on?
Yeah, I think the trend to green, ESG, sustainable is not a topic just in finance, but it's very important in finance. And we see the trend in all the asset classes. We see it in loans, we see it in the bond market, and we see it, of course, in the Schuldschein market. And it's a huge topic. We see a lot of supply, and we see more and more supply each year. And on the other hand, investors' demand for ESG, for green products is growing too. And that's why I think that the topic will be huge the upcoming years. There will be more supply, there will be more demand, and it's getting more and more important to have access to green or ESG-linked financing. I think we are already through the presentation. So at this point, thank you all very much for joining us today. Thank you, Uli, for the presentation. And I hope you have some more time to join us for our Q&A session.